Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the channel, we're taking a quick look at Hellbringer, which is basically Diablo on your tabletop. Well, at least part of Diablo. This is a card game that is focused on the character building and combo building and combat of Diablo, not so much on the exploration. And I think it does a really good job of nailing those elements. And yeah, it does kind of feel like you are playing a Diablo card game. This is from Maxime Guthier, and I recently got this from Kickstarter. I was a backer. Let's take a look at the back of the box here and read a little bit about Hellbringer. Play as a legendary hero and engulf yourself in the shadows of a dungeon. Your ultimate enemy? A mighty demon. To defeat it, you must be strategic, equip yourself, and learn skills throughout the game. In Hellbringer, seeing the enemy will be essential. Keep them in sight. Your life depends on it. And here we have all of our classes that you can play in this game. So we will do a little bit of a demonstration with the game today. I'll show you what you get with the expansions. There are two small expansions that you could get with the Kickstarter. Honestly, I don't think they should be expansions. I think they should be included in the game because they do add quite a bit and they kind of flesh out the game. And so I don't think I will ever play without them. But we get our rulebook. Our rulebook is pretty good. It's not the best rulebook, but it's not the worst rulebook. I learned the game by reading the rulebook and then watching the designer has some very detailed Let's Play videos using Tabletop Simulator, and it's very good. You can learn a lot from the game just by watching those videos. Throughout my demonstration today, I might make mistakes, so this is not a teach. I'm not teaching you how to play the game. I'm just giving you an idea about what it's all about. We also get our campaign booklet. It's not a in-depth campaign, which is good for me. Basically, you will be playing through 9 different scenarios. The scenarios will basically just dictate a little bit of story, and they will tell you who the final boss is. And the final boss of your first scenario will be a succubus. You might fight your cursed emperor during the training mission, and then you can move on through the abyssal, the black dragon, the bloodlord, the dark mage, a fallen angel, a lich king, a primal demon, and a red drake. And each one of these has an A side and a B side, and you have to defeat both sides in order to win the scenario. As you play through the different scenarios, you will be able to unlock certain perks, certain elements that you can carry forward. So there is a little bit of character progression from one game to the next. However, you can also play any of the scenarios mentioned in the scenario book in a standalone mode, and there are also some challenge scenarios. So if you want to play just a one-off game, it's very easy to set up, and it would also be pretty easy to make up your own one-off games for any types of challenges. So there are a lot of different ways to play the game. I think the game is kind of focused on a single-player game, maybe at the most 2 players. I think 2 players would be pretty great. You can play with 3 or 4, but the rules get a little bit weird, I think, with 3 or 4. I recommend 1 or 2. I think the game would be perfect. But here we can keep track of all of the things that we have unlocked to carry forward. We can keep track of our cards that we have unlocked, our players, and what classes they are. And then the 2 expansions, we have a loot and merchant expansion and a quests and event expansion. And so let me zoom out here. Okay, so the Loot and Merchant expansion, that is over here in the upper right corner of my table. And that includes a loot pile that you can draw from when you defeat monsters. And basically that'll give you a whole bunch of gold or possibly some bones that you can trade. And the gold you can spend on items. And this expansion also comes with some town portals. So yes, Diablo, you will be going into town portals at certain points during the game. You can go back to the town, you can go to the merchant, and you can buy certain items for your character. And so that's one of the expansions there. That's everything that that expansion adds. The other expansion is up here in the upper left-hand corner. And this is the quests and events expansion. And this adds a deck of random events that you will draw at the beginning of each turn These can be little traps, things that you can find, things that you can discover, and some side quests. So I think this deck adds quite a bit to the game. And this expansion also adds a different way to move through the game where you have a little bit of choice on which dungeon you are going into. The dungeon exploration in this game, there isn't a lot of it. You're not really exploring, you're not building a dungeon. Each dungeon floor is represented by a card. And each one of these, this is kind of like Diablo 1, where you are going deeper and deeper, 10 levels down, right? And each level will add some strength, will make the enemies more difficult, or they might add a little wrinkle to the equation. And so when you're playing with the quests and events expansion, you have a little bit more choice on which dungeon you are going into. And let's start setting up. So you have a huge deck of item cards. And these item cards are very detailed. There are all kinds of things to discover and all kinds of ways to build your character out using these cards. And the item cards here will have this itemization icon there, and we can take a look at the back here. So we have things like weak spot. This is a skill that the monk can learn. Skills, you have to be part of the associated class. You have to have the associated class to learn it. But all of the classes can learn or can use the skills as one-off spells. So the monk can learn weak spot, or the warrior could use weak spot one time and then discard it. Here we have immolate, or magic potential, tidal wave, water bending, blessed armor. So there's a lot of loot in here. We have the armor, we have potions, we have uprooting skill, assimilate, counterattack. Here we have some gauntlets of knowledge. The gauntlets of knowledge can be socketed. And here we have this gold banner card, this gold border card. That is a socket. That's a jewel. So we could socket this into our gauntlets of knowledge, and that would give us +5 defense, +5 armor. Here we have firewall, the elixir of major health, a combat robe, a long sword, which can be socketed. Maybe we want to socket that with this piercing vision. We could socket that, and that will give us 1 perception. And perception is a attribute, and it's a very important attribute in this game because you can only attack what you can see. And so you want to make sure that you have enough perception to see within the depths of the dungeon. And here we have our character cards. So we will be keeping track of our stats. We have our health, we have our defense, our armor, perception, our actions, our skills, and our hand size. So damage in this game, combat, it's all or nothing. You either do all of the damage. So if I had 40 health and 5 armor, that would be 45. An enemy would have to do 45 damage to me to kill me. If they did 30 damage, it would be like doing no damage. Perception, again, that's how far you can see into the dungeon. And that is kept track here. When you're playing solo, you have 2 levels. You can either see the enemies or you can't see the enemies. So if you can see the enemies, you can attack them. The enemies can attack you. You can't attack the enemies you can't see, but they can still attack you. So perception is very important. Actions, that's how many actions you can take on a turn. Your skill value, that's how many skills you can learn. And your hand size is how many cards you can hold in your hand. So at the beginning of the game, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your large stack of item cards, your general draw cards, and you are going to draw 4. So let's see what we have here. We have our hypervision, and this is a skill, and you get a +2 to your perception, and it costs 0 to learn. That's great. And this is a black orb skill, so that means any class can learn it. We have our piercing vision. Okay, and we have our longsword and our combat robe. I thought I had shuffled those, but these are all ones we took a look at before. But hey, that's okay. These are all black orb skills, so that means any of the classes can use these. So that's pretty great, actually. So we will put those down, and then we also take our mule card. And the mule is something that you can use, or something that you can use when you're playing single player, because the pack mule can have 4 items that you can trade with, because one of the things you can do when you're playing co-op in this game is you can trade. Let's draw the 4 cards to see what our mule will have. All right, thick skin, firewall, piercing gem, and elixir of major health. So I'm going to set those off to the side here with our mule. So if we ever want to trade any of our items, we can do that with the mule over here. So I'll put those off to the side. Those are off camera right now. And then now we can kind of choose our starting class depending on those items that we have available. So let's take a look at our starting classes. We have the Paladin, we have the Monk, we have the Warrior, we have the Hunter, we have the Druid, and finally we have the Sorcerer. And each one of those has a different color orb that will allow them to learn those skills. And around the card, we have our different sockets: red, green, purple, and blue. Red is for offense. Green is usually for some kind of augmentation, augmenting your offense, some defense. Purple is usually some kind of bonus, like a helmet or a ring or an amulet. And blue will be your armor. And so on your character card here, you will put your character down, and then you can socket in your different abilities, your different armor, and your loot and your weapons and so on. And then each of the classes will have 2 starting items and 3 perks. You get to choose one of your starting items, and you get to choose one of your starting perks, and you have 2 available. The 3rd perk is only used in campaign mode. But let's go ahead and let's play a warrior here. So let me find the warrior. Warrior was towards the back, wasn't he? Where did my warrior go? Warrior. All right. So I will put the rest of these cards away, out of sight, out of mind. We have our warrior here. So warrior, 50 health, 0 armor, 2 perception, 1 action, 1 skill, and a hand of 5. On the side of your character card here, we also have our stats. So we have our health stat, our armor stat, our defense, perception, actions, and skill. As you kill monsters, you will slot those to this side, and that will level up that skill. So every monster we kill, if we slot in the health spot, we will add 5 to our total health. All right. And now I can choose between 2 of these weapons, a warrior's sword or a warrior's axe. The warrior's sword has the red icon, so that would be slotted there. The warrior's axe is a 2-handed weapon. It takes the red and green, so that would be slotted like that. That will give us 3 red dice to attack, and plus 1 if we have at least an armor or at least a health of 60. The warrior's sword will give us a 3 to our attack. And damage is done using these red dice or these green dice. The red dice are more powerful. They deal damage from 0 to 5 to 10. The green dice is 0 or 5. And so you will be rolling tons of damage dice, 20, 30, 40 damage dice, and doing massive amounts of damage in this game. Okay, let's see here. I will just take the sword into my hand. I don't get to use it yet. It goes into my hand. It takes an action to equip. And let's see my 2 perks here. I have Steel Skin or Weapon Overuse. I can reuse at no cost an item on the red. So during each turn, you can only use each item 1 time, but this will allow me to use that again. You can only use each perk once per game. Or I can obtain your defense and health bonus until the start of your next turn. So I can turn defense into health. Let's go for a damage build there. So I'll take that. I will put the rest of these cards over here with the rest of the classes. So here is my starting hand. Your perk, you can slot that down. So I have the warrior sword. I have the hyper vision, piercing vision, a long sword, and a combat robe. And then you can also start with this starter elixir, and that will give you a chance to do some defense. And that's a good way to kind of make the game a little easier. Start with that card to make the solo game a little easier. So now we need to build our dungeon. And each dungeon is built the same way. If we go into our rulebook here, we can look and we can see how to build the dungeon. So there are 5 piles. Your big pile is always considered pile number 5. And then we have different tomes. And the tomes, when you draw the tome, that will unlock a story. And that's kind of how the campaign goes. where you will read a little paragraph of text when you draw the tome, and then you will get to do something beneficial. And then we also have a certain number of combat cards and a certain number of common items. So common cards, we get 4 plus 1 per player, and the combat cards, we get 1 per player. So let's build our stacks here. We'll take our common cards. We'll deal out 4 plus 1 per player. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put that there. Okay, so those are the 5 levels of our dungeon. Now, we will take our combat cards. Where did my combat cards go? Where are those? There's our tome cards and our showdown cards we're not going to use. That's for a different kind of combat. We will take our 1, 2, 3, 4 combat cards and place those on top like that. All right, and then we will take our tomes, and we have tome 2, tome 3, tome 4, and tome 5. Now, all of these cards are double-sided, so you will know when you are going to draw one of these cards as you are exploring. And then we will also take, because we're playing with the expansion here, we will take our town portals, and those go here like that. And then one will get mixed into our large stack here, but I'm not going to do that for this demonstration. So we don't have a town portal in stack 1, but we can go to the town in stack 2, stack 3, and stack 4. And then we take our stairways, and the stairways are how we go down deeper into the dungeon. And those will be at the bottoms of stacks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now we take these, we shuffle them up. Don't look at them so you don't, sometimes people, when you shuffle a double-sided card and you see it right on top, you maybe don't want to pick it, but I'm not looking. Okay, so we're done. So we'll place that there. This is stack 2, not looking, giving that a shuffle. Okay, place the stairway underneath there. Do the same here. Okay, place the stairway underneath there. Do the same here. Place the stairway underneath there. And then now we stack them on top of each other. And so this is our dungeon now. So this is what we are trying to explore. This is our common deck. We might need to draw cards from this. Normally, you place this on top of your common item deck. And there are a lot of times during the game where it tells you to draw from the bottom of the stack, because when you draw from the top of the stack, you are working your way towards your objective. When you draw from the bottom, you're just looting. However, a stack like this without some kind of card holder is really a pain in the butt to draw from the bottom of. So I keep these two things separate. This is the top of the deck. Whenever I'm told to draw from the bottom of the deck, I just draw from the top of this deck. That's how I keep things. And I just find it to be a little bit easier. So we'll set this off to the side here. I'll kind of put this here. And we always start in the graveyard. And this will tell us how to start our initial enemies. Because we have 2 decks of enemies here. We have our normal enemies, and those have this icon here with the large horns. And then we have our basic enemies, and those have short horns. So we have things like crocodiles, rat humanoids, bears, skeletons, arachnids, wraiths, giant scarabs, giant snakes, hellhounds, and ghouls. So we'll give those a shuffle. And then our regular enemies, we have things like dark imps, manticores, shaman, twilight guardians, werewolves, the reaper, a giant slug, air elementals, gargoyles, a Hylian, a homunculus, a revenant. All right, so we'll give those a shuffle. And then our main goal will be, we won't get to it in the game, in this video, it'll be too long. But our main goal in this quest is going to be to fight and kill the succubus. So the succubus card can go up here on the enemy all the way in the top. So that is the main demon that we are trying to fight. So the graveyard says here, do immediately. This is our first location. All games start in the graveyard. And we want to shuffle and place 2 basic enemies plus 2 per player. So that'll be 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take those 4. The rest of the basic enemies we don't use. Shuffle those. and we will place that on top of our enemy deck. Okay, now we want to draw 3 enemies and add them to our board here. But let's do our character first. So let's take a look at our character. This game uses white paint dry erase. So we have 50 health. I'm going to write 50 here. Okay, we have 0 defense, 0 armor. We have a 2 perception. We have 1 action. We have 1 skill, and we have a hand of 5. But you can start the game with more than 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because of this starter elixir. So we need to seed our dungeon right now, our dungeon floor, with 3 monsters. So I'll draw the top 3. Those are all basic monsters. And let's see what we are fighting. We have a skeleton. Okay, the skeleton has a perception of 1. Our perception is equal to or greater than that, so we can see the skeleton. The skeleton has 5 health, 0 armor, and 2 actions, but they will always only do 1 action. Whenever you have the blue action marker, that might trigger something else. For instance, you might have a spell that says defeat all enemies with a 2 or less icon. If that made sense there. We have a bear with 15, a perception of 2, so we can see the bear. And, the rat humanoid, a perception of 5. So we cannot see this rat humanoid, but they can see us. So they are hiding up there in the darkness. Okay, interesting. All right. And we will take the rest of our cards here. So when we find those staircases in our dungeon deck, then we will get to make a choice. And it's kind of a branching choice. You first get to go to either the cave or the crypts. And then one of those might lead to hell or a tomb, or maybe the pits and the nether. And so we will have a choice of where we want to go. We are in the graveyard now. We'll place that there. Okay, I think we're all set up. So the first thing we're going to do is at the top of our turn, we will draw a random event from our expansion deck. And let's see what happens here. Okay, we find an urn. The urn is an event, and -1 from your hand, +1 from the common draw pile. So we're going to discard something, and then we will get to draw something at random. So let's see if I have something that I want to discard here. Let's see here. The warrior's sword the longsword is better, but that will take 3 actions to equip. We do want more perception. I can learn this for free, so I think I will get rid of this. I will discard this, and I'll draw 1 card from the pile there. And hey, I found a familiar or a companion. Each character can have 1 companion equipped to your companion slot. And so this is a golem that I can summon. And it will cost 2 actions to summon the golem. It's very good to have companions because they can soak damage. You can use them as meat shields. But okay, so now it's my turn. I have 1 action. And I think for my 1 action, I'm going to equip my warrior's sword. It costs 1 action. When you equip an item, you can immediately use it. So to use it, I can do 3 red dice of damage. I'll equip my sword. I will take my 3 red dice. And now I can choose to attack either the skeleton or the bear. I have a much better chance of killing the skeleton because the skeleton only has 5 health. The graveyard doesn't add any bonuses. Some of the locations that you are in will add a bonus to the enemies, to their perception, to their health, or to their defense. So I will just take my attack here, and 10, 20, 25 is greater than 5, so I kill the skeleton. Now I can slot the skeleton in, and I can immediately take that bonus. So I've used my 1 action, but I could slot it in to give me an additional action and immediately take that action. I could slot it in to give me my perception. I need 5 perception to see the rat. Here I can learn 2, 4, and 5 to see the rat. I think I'll do that. So my perception is now 3. However, I'm also going to use this because it doesn't take any action, and it's a black circle, black orb, so anybody can learn this. So I will learn hypervision. So that will also give me a +2. taking my perception to 5, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we can move the rat into the perception row because now I can see the rat. So now I can I can attack the rat. But I have no more actions. I don't have any more 0-cost cards to use, so now it is the enemy's turn. And let's see what they do. You will roll your orange enemy die to see who they attack. They can either attack your companion. If you don't have a companion, they will attack you. Same there. They will just attack your hero. They will attack both your companion and the hero, or they will miss. If they miss, though, you have to discard 2 cards from your hand. Sometimes a miss is worse than a hit. But let's see what these guys will do here. And they are attacking my just my hero. Okay, so we total up their number of dice here. -1 card in hand to attack targets. So I will lose a card. I will have to discard a card. They will attack with 2 red dice. The rats are immune to green dice, and they will attack with 3 green dice. So that's 5 dice total. So 2 red, 3 green. They do hit me, so I do need to discard a card from my hand, which is unfortunate. I think I will go ahead and discard the combat robes. And now let's see the damage. So I have a total health of 50. I don't think they can do 50 damage with this. They do 10 points of damage. So again, it's all or nothing. So they do not kill me. So now it is my turn again. So the first thing we do is we can draw a random event. And we find an empty barrel, contains nothing. Okay, that makes sense for a graveyard. It's already been looted. But now let's see. We should probably attack. Ah, man, we should probably try to kill that bear so we don't have to keep losing items. I only have 1 action though. And the bear has 15. Let's see. This might be kind of tough. But let's go for it. So I'm going to use my action to trigger my sword. So I'm going to roll my 3 red dice here. And 15. Yes, 10, 15, 15, and 0 defense. So we kill the bear. I'm going to slot the bear into an action, which immediately gives me another action. So now my action points are actually up to 2, but I do have 1 action now for doing that. You know what I forgot to do at the start of my last turn, at the end of my last turn, is draw up to 5 cards. So let me draw 2 more cards. Okay, nice. So now we have a shield that we can use. And so I will spend 1 action to equip that shield. That immediately gives me 10 damage or 10 armor, and it increases my hand size to 6. Nice. Okay, so I think that's my turn. That's all of my actions, and I can't do anything else. Okay, so now it is the enemy's turn, and there is 1 enemy on the board. So let's see what they do. They are attacking my companion. I don't have a companion, so the attack goes to me. They fight with 3 green dice. There's absolutely nothing they can do because they can't hit me. I have 60 health basically right now, so the rat can't hit me. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So I need to draw up to my cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I've drawn the tome. Okay, so the tome. I would go to my campaign book. Wrong book. I would go to my campaign book. I would read what the tome says. I think this should have been tome 2, because tome 1 is the beginning of the campaign. I would read tome 2, do what it says, and then also draw 1 card to replace this card. So I will discard that. Then I will draw 1 card, and we have the water bending. Okay, so that's another skill that I could learn. And let's see here. It's the top of my turn. I will draw a random event, and this is a side quest, barter. We need to accumulate 2 cards. So I need to discard 2 items underneath barter. If I do that, then I get the bonuses. You can have 1 side quest active at a time. If I find another side quest that I want to do more, I can discard that. So I will just place my side quest off to the side and keep that in mind. Okay, we're going to do 1 more turn so we can kill this rat, and I can show you what happens if we are ever out of enemies. So I have 2 actions now. 1, 2, and let's see here. I think for 2 actions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 actions to summon my Golem companion, and I will immediately get to do a 3 red die attack against the rat humanoid. If I was a druid, here's a combo. If you are a druid and you have this character summoned, then you get plus 10 health to all companions in play. And you, as the druid, you can have multiple companions in play. Hey, that's pretty cool. There are a lot of great combinations like that in this game. It's really fun to think about the different combinations once you start getting more things and you start building up your character. Okay, so my golem will do a 3 die attack against the rat humanoid. All I need is 5, and there's 20. So we kill the rat humanoid. So now I can slot the rat humanoid. I am going to give us an additional action. So now I have 3 action points on each turn. So I've used all my actions. Now it's the monster's turn. There are no monsters on the board though. So what I have to do is I have to draw 5 cards from the top. So when you clear out your monsters, you move deeper into the dungeon. So we draw 1. There is a Potion of Fury. 2. A summoner that we can have as a companion. 3 is the combat card, 4 is the stairway, and 5 is the town portal. Okay, interesting. This is an interesting draw here. So these 3 things happen immediately. And one thing that I forgot to do because I was playing with the expansion and it just kind of slipped to my mind is each time I killed an enemy, I should have drawn from the loot stack. So that's 1, 2, 3 enemies. 1, 2, 3 pieces of loot. What do we have? We have 15 gold, 5 gold, and bones. Bones forces me to discard a card. I think I will discard waterbending, but I can use bones in town. And I have 20 gold to spend in town. So I could go to the town portal. And if I went to town, I would draw 3 of these cards. The first one would be 20, the second 30, and the last one 40. So I could buy a Potion of Acid, a Blood Pact, or a Perfectionist Gem. Okay, so those are the things that are available. You can also trade, you can do certain things over in town, but I'm not going to do any of those right now. Just wanted to show you how that worked. And then also, I would also draw 1 card to replace this and then discard that from the game. Okay, so we'll draw 1 card to replace it, and that is a wooden shield. Okay, next up, we have our combat. If you draw a combat card during this kind of exploration, you can just discard it, or not discard it, but you can put it back on top of your exploration pile. This causes more enemies to come out. So I think I will keep that out on the board, and this is going to add 1 enemy to the board here. We draw that. It is an arachnid with a perception of 3. I can see the arachnid. Okay, so we'll place the arachnid out there. And then we also draw 1 card to replace this card, and we will discard that card. And now we have the barrier. Finally, we have the stairway. So the stairway, now we have a choice. I need to look at the choices here of where to go. From the graveyard, we can go to the crypt or the catacombs. So where are we going to go? The crypt or the catacombs? Let's see here. So we have a choice. We can go down to the crypt, which every enemy will get 5 more health, or we can go to the catacombs, every enemy gets 5 more health, or the crypt, every enemy has a +1 perception. I think I want to go to the catacombs. So that's where we're going next. So I will place that card on top. So we are now in the catacombs. And now I have 4 cards and I get to choose 1 to take into my hand. And let's see. So a barrier, you will always subtract 5 when you are attacked. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good skill. A summoner, that's a pretty good, or a Potion of Fury. I think I'm going to take this barrier into my hand. Okay, so now there is 1 enemy out on the board because they were populated during that exploration phase. And let's see who they attack. They will attack my hero. They do 3 damage, 3 green dice of damage. There's no way they can attack. So right now the game's pretty easy, but and you will start putting out enemies that have high perception where you can't see them, and they will start adding up 6, 5, 10, 12 different dice to attack you, and so on. And as you start exploring more, man, there are some really, really cool cards that you can get with all kinds of different combos and different types of weapons, different spells, and you can really start building a character. And I think this game does a great job of making you feel like you are playing an action RPG that is focused on the character building and the combat, not so much on the exploration. You have a little bit of choice into what kind of dungeon you want to go into, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make a huge difference as far as providing some theme, providing a feel. I think the deck here, the event deck that you draw at the beginning of each turn, I think this adds a whole bunch of stuff because you will have different traps and different shrines. You will have a chance to find different treasure and those side quests. And then also having that opportunity to use those town portals to go back to town to do some trading. And yeah, there's a lot going on in this game. It's cool. It's really fun. I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I backed it. I took a chance. This is, I think, a first-time designer, the first-time game. And I know I posted about it, and some people on the Facebook group are like, I don't know. And I don't know. I had a good feeling about it, and I'm glad I did. I think this is a really fun game, especially for just one-off games. And I know a bunch of my friends right now, I got a couple buddies who are really into Diablo 4. And so I'm pretty sure that they are going to want to play this game. And we'll see. We'll see how it works out as a 3-player game. I think it's best as 1 or 2, but 3 might work. But yeah, and I'm really looking forward to exploring the different characters, the different classes, and the builds, and seeing what kind of awesome combinations I can put together. Because, man, there is a lot of loot in this game. There's a lot of stuff that you can use in creative ways. So, all right, you guys. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed this brief look at Hellbringer. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.